just having a conversation, and what we'll do...
Well, yeah, you think so.
Do you see Antigone expanding in its size?
No, I hope we can keep it to this size. When we moved into this space, we didn't have a clue that we would be able to fill it. We didn't really, it was very roomy at first. But we have filled it up, and but we've got to keep it right here. So no, we don't want to expand.
So what's the concept behind Antigone Books? What makes it different from other bookstores in town?
Mm-hmm. When it started in 1973, it was started as a women's bookstore. The women's movement was pretty much in its early days, and women's bookstores were opening around the country. And so those were stores that specialized in books by and about women, also had kids' books, books about domestic violence, different political issues, and also fiction, and a variety of things. So that is how it began. And there are independent bookstores all around the country. They have really been struggling. First because of the chain bookstores, and then because of the internet. And so a lot of them have gone out of business all over the country. But I always, whenever I travel, visit whatever independent bookstores I can find. And they can be teeny or they can be huge. In Denver, there's a really big one. In Portland, there's a big one with several stores. And sometimes you find a fabulous little small one-room bookstore. So I always like to see what I can find. And also there have been feminist and women's bookstores all across the country, and a lot of those have closed as well, but there still are a big handful, I would say, of those across the country. And also then people appreciate the serious things we have. That is the bird clock. Hold on. After this goes off, we'll have a whole hour till it does it again.
How are you guys doing here on 4th Avenue?
At the moment, we seem to be doing well, which is, we feel very lucky since we've just been through such a terrible year for the whole country and retail for sure. But, so far so good. We made it through last year, and this year's looking okay. And, amazingly enough, I think it's going to, be okay for now. You never know. I mean, books are not, the wave of the future, so we'll just see what happens. But at the moment, things are going pretty well. Okay, because I wanted to say that when we think of what 4th Avenue is missing, we feel like it's missing a post office and Chinese food. These are the things we think would do well on 4th Avenue. But, it's just like, it's an individual. Everyone is an individual on 4th Avenue, and you just never know what's going to open up next.
Has the city ever shown any interest in what you guys do?
Yeah, because they have to show an interest, because not only do we serve people food and keep them alive, we do community organizing, and we try to organize the people that we serve and the people of our barrios and on this side of town. And so whether they like it or not, like the local powers that be have to deal with organized people from these barrios going and saying we demand a voice, we demand to be treated human, and give us some justice. So we work with council people all the time. It's being in alert mode, trying to see what dirty, shady deals are done to displace poor people and replace them with people with money in the downtown. It's an ongoing battle. Okay.
You have anything you wanted to add?
You're the Minister of Culture. Get a brown guy in there, man. They don't want to hear from white guys all the time.
Yeah, let me say something.
Brian referred to you as the cultural. Can you tell me the title that he gives you?
Minister of Culture, because I do have a theater group right now that involves Casa Maria people, and I do a lot of artsy stuff for local art gallery, and I've been involved in several movies, and I get around. I get around town. It's an artist. In fact, I'm going to go to Raul Irijalves having a press conference in 1 hour about the arts, bringing the arts here in town to defeat 1070. You were asking about if we have to be vigilant, very vigilant. Every morning when I wake up, I read the paper. I'm always looking at the city changes, or what is the city doing, any kind of issue that I should be involved in, should I be concerned with, so I get a lot of information from that, and from our friends that work for the city council people. They give us a call. Hey, this is going to be the agenda. This is what the rich people want, the foothills people want, and stuff. So right away we got the information. We start to mobilize, we start to organize and put pressure on the city council. So it's a constant pressure put on the city council to do the right thing.
Are they responsive? Is the council responsive?
Yes, they've been pretty responsive to our demands and stuff. Like we're working from the angle of the working class people, and the city council tends to listen to the rich people. But we've done a legwork here in organizing the work people to combat this rich people, gentrifiers, developers, and stuff, and go hit on them on different issues, and it's working out pretty good for us.
Gonna stick a mic in front of me. It all comes back.
And what is this facility?
This is Jim Brady Recording Studios, and it's something that I'd actually been doing. I had a studio in my house all during my radio career, so I guess I was kind of destined to do this from the get-go. And a lot of people that were in the radio biz with me kind of knew that this was the direction that I was heading. But I really had always been interested in music as a musician, and obviously in music because of the radio career. But once I got out of that, I really decided that I wanted to work for myself, and so the building was available. A gentleman by the name of Lee Furr had actually built the building in the early 70s and had run a studio in here up until about 1980. And oddly enough, we had done a number of programs live from Lee Furr Studios that were connected with KWFM at the time. So I was very familiar with both Lee and the facility, because we had done these live on the air things. First ever in Arizona, the first ever simulcast. We were connected with the television station. So when he sold all of his equipment to the university, and the building sat vacant for several years. At the time, I was working at KLPX, and I used to come by the building every single day going home because I lived off of Glen, which this building's on, and would come by, and there was a sign sitting out front that said, for sale by owner, for sale by, and I'm looking at it. So for like 3 years, I kept looking at it, and the number of people that want to buy a recording studio, the building, not even the gear, because he had sold all of the equipment to the university. And I just kept looking at it and kept looking at it. Finally, when I got out of radio, to make a long story short, I wound up being able to lease it initially from Lee, and then to opening up the studio in here in 1984. Many of the stores and the clubs around 4th Avenue, we were the natural place for them to advertise. And I certainly remember walking down the street, and virtually we were the radio station that you heard when you walked into any of the stores down there, that they were playing for background music. So there was a relationship, and oddly enough, the radio station, even for being this FM underground station, our studios were downtown, so we were in the Lawyers Title building. We were just blocks away from 4th Avenue. So we were actually physically very close to their location. It was just down a couple of streets and under the underpass, and there you were on 4th Avenue. So not only were we physically close, but obviously there was relationships on multiple levels between what we were doing and what was happening down on 4th. It would make any sense whatsoever. Hi. Excuse me one second. I'm sorry. No. I'm right in the middle of something. Some other time, okay? Okay. Someone's selling something.
I worked 4th Avenue selling ad time for the radio station to all the stores on 4th Avenue, which included head shops and nightclubs and a lot of hair salons. And this one hair salon was called the Hair Loft. And it was very popular, but I sold the time to them, and they wanted something really different for a commercial. Now, we had another guy at the station. His name is Charlie DePinto, and he and I would do commercials. Charlie was a very funny guy. So we wrote this commercial, kind of sketched it out, and we sat down and we just recorded it. And the whole scene is this. I'm a young woman sitting at the bar, and I have a drink in front of me, and this guy comes up and sits next to me, and he goes, "Hey, honey, boy, you sure look great tonight." "Why, thank you, sir." And he'd say, "Wow, how do you get that look? I really like your hair. How'd you get that look?" And I said, "Well, my goodness, I had my hair done at the Hair Loft. I always get my hair done at the Hair Loft." "Yeah?" he said. "Wow," he said, "they do a good job, don't they? They made you look really great." And I said, "Yeah, they give a great blow dry." And they took us off the air after a couple of weeks. We did commercials for the night train that were similar to that, lots of sexual overtones and lots of implications of, drug use, but the bands were wild and the nights were fun. And it was all very creative, because we'd do ads for smoke shops too, advertising bongs. Times have changed, and the interesting thing above all is it's this year that we had that proposition on election that's trying to legalize marijuana. And we were back in the 70s advertising all of the paraphernalia for that illegal drug. It was a great time. I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
When I first joined KWFM in 1971, we weren't making a lot of money, to say the least. I think it was like $1.60 an hour or something. But I was pretty good at cutting commercials, and I went to the owner for a raise, and he said, "If you want to make more money, go out and sell some advertising." So I happened to know a couple of the principals that were in this shoe store down on 4th Avenue. It was 424, or was that?
I don't remember.
I don't remember the address.
It's called Boot Hill.
And as time went on, it turns out that Carol was working there, and we ended up getting together over a period of time. But the connection between Boot Hill and the radio station got a little bizarre, because within a few months, we had a very good air staff then. Matt Siegel was doing, I believe, evenings, and he ended up being the most famous guy who ever came out of the station. He's been #1 in Boston for 25 years, and Dave Gordon. And they both ended up going out with girls who worked at Boot Hill with Carol. So the three of us, the entire air staff of KWFM, was going out with
the entire Boot Hill staff.
The entire Boot Hill staff.
Well, Fourth Avenue was like the place. That was the place to be. It was like, in the early 70s, it was still a lot of hippies. I mean, everybody just hung out on 4th Avenue. And there were all kinds of restaurants. Well, a couple restaurants there, a lot of clothing stores there. It just seemed to be, even now, I mean, with younger people, like the university students, they still go to 4th Avenue. It just had this vibe. It was where everybody went.
Well, you had that whole cultural transformation going on in the 60s, the Vietnam War, and it was kind of a spiritual, cultural center for that area. You had the Gantry bookstores, I recall, that had a lot of interesting books in it and whatnot. There were a lot of people were meditating. I mean, I remember 4th Avenue. I remember walking into the stores and smelling incense, and there were places that sold.
There was a reason you were smelling incense.
It had kind of a Haight-Ashbury, Greenwich Village kind of feel to it.
Exactly.
And the merchants down there stuck together fairly closely, and
KWFM at the time was really the only radio station to listen to that played, rock music, the kind of music that everyone was listening to.
Yeah, there were only 3 or 4 FM stations.
And Alan, I thought,
time.
when I first met Alan, I thought, I used to listen to him on the radio, and then I met him, and I thought, he was like a star. I was like very impressed, and then to know that, yeah, right.
Right. I'm still a star.
And then to know that the 2 of the other girls that I worked with were also dating guys from the radio station. I mean, it was just had a certain cachet to it. And we stuck it out.
Okay, Zucker interview.
It's tough. I think they, use bookstores and other stores. The rents aren't real high, but it's the people who go down there often don't have a lot of money, like to spend, but there's an aura down there from the shanty all the way up. There've been gay bars, and there've been lesbian bars, and there've been rock and roll bars, and country bars, and just bars, and different stores, and I don't think anybody's gotten rich down there. I lived in Phoenix, and it's kind of like a Mill Avenue, but it's a little bit under Mill Avenue for some reason, maybe because it's downhill. But Mill Avenue is like right on the school almost, and it seems to maybe the Mill Avenue has been more successful over the years. So it's a tough one.
Well, that.
Where Phoenix and ASU was right there, and there's money right there. They built, a lot of stone buildings and stuff. I think if they had their way, they'd probably tear down all those buildings. Maybe now with the trolley, maybe now we're trying to fix up and going into Congress to have something right from the university, from Campbell all the way down through on the trolley, although it's a great expense. But if they get all the way to downtown, it's very inner city, and I don't think Mill Avenue is quite as inner city. It's right by the railroad tracks, and even though there is railroad tracks up there off of Hardy, I could see where Mill Avenue would go first, because it seemed to be Mill Avenue and the college was right here. The college is kind of separated, so when I think of college, I think of university. When you think of hippies, you think of 4th Avenue, and in between the two, there's a space where Tucson High School is, and that whole area there going down 6th Street. So I think it was separated, and maybe that's what helped the charm and the separation. I don't think people were interested in investing in 6th Street or in big money or in 4th Avenue. I was going to open up a new club, though. My idea was called Bar Owners. That was the name of the club. Because everybody wanted to be a bar owner, right? So a guy could rent the club for a night. We bring in the music and everything else, and he'd be like the big dog, or she'd be the big doggy for the night, and they could be in the basement, they could meet the band, they could be part of the group. And I was going to call it Bar Owners and open it up like for weekends. I still talk about that kind of stuff, but everything has a swing. I mean, there are topless bars that probably aren't very popular anymore that were big in the 90s or early 2000, and the disco is this, and there's nothing out on the Tanque Verde Strip anymore. I don't even know where the kids go now.
You're in the shot.
Now I really feel like
Thank
I'm
you.
going to be in the movie.
We're rolling.
Well, I don't want to call them all hippies. Artists, the pottery people, that's where...
Hold that
Hold
thought,
that
maybe.
I'm sorry. Here comes an...
Apparently there's an invasion.
Royally F-16 flyover.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Hi, Marcy.
Hello, how are you? Thank you.
Thank you.
Speed, go ahead and mark it. Very good.
And I've been here on and off since '66.
Oh, wow.
So,
Really?
yeah.
So you've seen lots of changes.
Yeah, I've seen lots of dirt roads get paved. Sad thing. Lots of sprawl.
Brahman and I own our own house, and we moved into that house in April of 1987, so it's 22 years this month.
And then before that, we were in the area
Right.
separately.
We always considered 4th Avenue separate than downtown. There was downtown and there was 4th Avenue as far as the music scene goes, but now it's kind of all blurred. That happened in the early 90s. There was a lot of music in the 80s on 4th Avenue, and then during the 90s it kind of dried up and it all moved downtown. There were a lot of places downtown to play. And the 80s were kind of a rebuilding time for 4th Avenue. There's a gay place that I've heard is the best place to dance in. There's the Surly Wench.
How'd you know that?
I get around
You
it.
get around? Okay.
Yeah. And
What's the name of the gate? Is that IBT's?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Heard
it's
there's,
about
like,
time.
awesome
I hear it's fan-
karaoke there, so.
Well, we hear it on Sunday. I don't know how awesome it is.
The karaoke?
The
Yeah.
karaoke.
Karaoke.
Yeah.
Because we can hear it
When
in
the
our,
Tyon
in our
harasses
house.
take the stage, it's kind of...
But I do hear it's like the best techno dancing.
yeah, yeah.
But it will be interesting with the change in the economy to see how long everyone holds on to their values. And
Well, it's interesting that you say that. What would you say to somebody watching this documentary who would turn it off and just say, well, a bunch of damn liberals?
Thanks. No, I think people starting their own business and making it go, even if it's on a small street like 4th Avenue, is great.
I think David moved to Phoenix when the Mill Avenue scene had already shut down.
pretty much at the end,
Yeah.
I think it was 03 or 04.
Because we've
So it
done...
was still kind of vibrant, but then it just gradually just one place closed after another. So
But as far as you can tell, that doesn't appear to be the case down here.
I mean, if there can be a balance between some kind of corporate entity, it's fine because, hey, we all need the tax dollars to take care of our streets and infrastructure. I mean, you need that. And sometimes you look around Tucson, you don't have that, and that's what people would come down from Phoenix. Phoenix has a lot of infrastructure. They have more tax dollars, and it's groomed. So if you can sacrifice that, I mean, Tucson's a great place. But sometimes you need that balance to kind of keep it going. If we have too much of a niche, then that eventually that will die too. So it's kind of a give and take.
Top of the mic.
It's out.
Okay.
Wow. Before this was Revolutionary Grounds, it was Rainbow Planet. It was a coffee shop, a GLBT coffee shop. And for a lot of people, I have a lot of friends who said this was the place where they came out. This was their spot to feel safe in, not a bar, you know, and a place where they could feel accepted by family. And so it was really important for them when Rainbow Planet closed to continue to have a space. And to
So
have
do you get to see a lot of the same customers?
a lot of the same customers, definitely a lot of carryover.
What kind of groups come use the space? And give me a couple of examples.
Some of the advocacy, like the No More Deaths, and some of the groups that are working to mitigate the migrant deaths on the border meet here. We have a theater group that meets here, and we have knitting group that meets here. We have transgender support group that meets here. We've had teacher groups meet here. Oh my goodness.
So you just cover the gamut.
Whatever it is. Organizing groups, a couple of study groups, student groups. Now there's a Aztec dance group that's going to start meeting here.
Will you think you'll ever see the need to expand to accommodate these groups?
That would be great. Yeah, we would love to be able to do that. It's just, you know, since the whole meltdown of the economy, all the spaces that used to be free aren't free anymore, and so people need a place to meet, and they don't have any money. It's not like, you know, you're a little struggling theater troupe or whatever you are. You don't have all kinds of money for your regular meetings, so it's nice to be able to offer that. And yeah, someday we'll expand. We'll put a bunch more bookshelves in. And yeah, we'll have more meeting spaces. It'll be great. What I would love to have is a full kitchen. That would, yeah, I would love that. Because I love the food part as much as I love the book part. That's what I was doing all morning, was baking.
Ah.
Yeah, I have to rent a commercial kitchen, bake all day, bring it all here. That's okay, but I'd love to have my own kitchen here.
Was there ever any question as to where you were going to open this shop?
Actually, yeah. We had thought it would be nice to open maybe either this area or downtown. We thought downtown doesn't have any bookstores at all. There used to be a great little bookstore that closed a few years ago. What was it called? I can't remember what it was called. Ex Libris? No. Great little bookstore, loved it. And it closed a few years ago, and since then there's been no bookstores downtown. There's a few coffee shops, but they're only open during the week. There's nothing in the weekends or after hours. So we looked really hard, and we could, half the time, the landlords wouldn't even call us back. And there's all these empty storefronts that have been empty for years. And to get even a call back was almost impossible. And when we did, it was, you know, the space as it is, and you have to do your own renovating, you're going to have to put in your own cooling system, and it's going to be $3,500 a month. And we couldn't do that. And so we were really also looking on 4th Avenue. We called a few places on 4th Avenue as well. And nothing that would fit this combination of what we wanted to do. And then we met Diana, who owned The Planet, through a friend of mine, and started talking about what we were up to, and The Planet was going to be closing, and she talked about wanting to have the space go to something she felt comfortable with. So we were able to collaborate and support her in closing The Planet, and then made it possible for us to open here.
So this was almost a perfect fit.
Perfect.
Interesting. What motivated the closing of Rainbow Planet?
I think they just ran out of money.
I see.
You know, it's hard. It was here for a long time, a number of permutations. The space was double the size they had the space next door to, and they closed that off in an effort to save money, but a lot of coffee shops have closed in Tucson in the last year. For the most part, the city was wonderful with us, and they were just really happy that we came to them and said, we understand this is the rule, how do we follow it? So then that was fun.
Do you think on 4th Avenue there are, did you need to answer that?
That's my husband.
Oh yeah, no, answer that.
Hey baby. And then the 4th Avenue Street Fair. It's not what it once was. It's kind of corporate. It's really strange. You know, 4th Avenue is a quirky, weird place, and the street fair's got the same street fair people that go to the street fair in Santa Fe, or street fair in Albuquerque, or street fair in San Diego, or anywhere else on this side of the country. Same exact people, same exact stuff. That's weird to me, to have it here. But the street fair is one of the things that I enjoyed a lot when I first came, and how it started as business owners just sticking on a table and playing some music and selling their wares. You know, I like that. I like that history of it, and talking to people who had been here forever about that history. I really like.
The thrift store has been here for 30 years.
Since 1979.
Wow.
I know.
What did you do before that?
Whew, let me see. I did, I was in merchandising, I was a teacher, I was in market research in New York, I was a waitress, I traveled, I did many things.
So the Tucson thrift store was your first venture into entrepreneurship here on 4th Avenue?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've at 2 fires, or 2 floods and a fire, and you're still here.
And it's interesting because it's like every time it happens, it's like building the store 4 times, but every time it like goes to another level. It's fascinating. You know, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's fascinating. Because I'm always very happy with things the way they are. I don't really feel like changing anything, but change is forced upon me.
Has the Tucson thrift store, this has always been the theme? Or have
no,
you
that's what I mean.
yourself?
That's what I mean, that it keeps changing.
What did you start out as?
Starting out, it was all used merchandise. Because we're not, I mean, I can give you all the technical part, is because we're not owned by the City of Hope, we're giving to the City of Hope. We had a relationship with the local chapter of the City of Hope, so we had the right to buy, where generally at that time, if it was a thrift store, you could only receive, you couldn't direct it. So we were always able to buy and sort of direct the kind of inventory we had. That we, not only that, but we're collectible. This kind of thing doesn't exist anymore. You know, you'll go into downtowns in Texas or, you know, small towns, and generally the buildings are still wonderful. You know, beautiful old little buildings and shops, but they'll all be little old lady antique stores. They don't have the vibrancy of being an important part of the community like 4th Avenue has. And I even see, you know, in terms of who comes shopping here, it's the new people that are coming shopping here. And more, the new Tucsonians are connecting. The people from the cities are coming and, you know, coming down and coming to this place if they see what it is.
What's your history in Tucson? Give me your background with the city of Tucson.
Well, I came in 1985 from Long Island. I came out to work for Hughes Aircraft Company, and I'm an aerospace engineer. As a matter of fact, you see around you a collection of things that I've done and airplanes that I've built. And so with Hughes, retired from Hughes in '97. And was working in my garage of fun little engineering toys and things. And the water wars were raging in Tucson. And it looked as though the CAP was going to be turned back and not used for drinking. Boy, and I said, "Oh, I'm mad, and I'm going to do something about it." So, decided to run for mayor. So, and we need water, and we need commerce, and we need jobs, and we need a clean environment. And I said, "I'm an engineer, and by gosh, I'm going to go see if I can help that." We need to build on our strengths, and we need to be an emerging 21st century city that's knowledge-based. I mean, if you're not a knowledge-based city, you're not going to make it in the future. To be a knowledge-based global society. So we're not the end of the dusty trail. John Wayne would be proud of Tucson.
Would John Wayne go to 4th Avenue?
John Wayne did go to 4th Avenue. And he went to the Fox, and he used to get on the train and drive down to Mexico with his buddies, and he used to stay at the Arizona Inn and the Hotel Congress. No, boy, what a great history we have.